Welcome everybody to our webinar today. This month we're going to focus on heart health. Today is part 1 and we're going to talk about the 4 heart health pillars versus heart killers. The 4 heart health pillars. Number 1 is exercise. Second is keeping your weight in a healthy range. And while we're on the topic, I want to make it really clear up front, I am not talking about people who have a little extra weight, what is on this particular infographic called overweight. There are many extremely healthy people who carry a little extra weight. That is not the issue. The issue is when you become obese. Number 3 is to create a micronutrient-rich diet, and I'll talk a little more about that in a moment. And number 4 is to manage stress in your life. We all have stress. There are a lot of different techniques. You definitely want to learn how to manage it. The 4 heart killers starts off with a sedentary lifestyle, just the opposite of getting exercise. As you can see in this infographic, this is pretty true for a lot of people. They work 8 or more hours a day in an office. They drive to and from work. They come home and they're at the very least mentally exhausted, sometimes emotionally exhausted, and they just want to zone out. There may be other stressors that cause them to have issues where they're tired because of their mental stress, and that leads them to go to bed without really exercising, which means they don't get great sleep. Second heart killer is obesity. There's a definite link to heart disease and being obese. The third killer is when you eat a diet that is filled with processed foods, boxed foods, and fast foods. And number 4 is stress. Stress will kill you. So let's look at pillar versus killer number 1, exercise versus being sedentary. A sedentary life is strongly associated with increased heart disease. A large review of studies published in 2015 in the Annals of Internal Medicine found that even after adjusting for physical activity, sitting for long periods is associated with worse health outcomes, including heart disease. So just sitting, regardless of anything else in your life, can lead to more disease, including heart disease. In fact, it's called sitting disease. On an average, people spend 11 hours a day on their butts in a seat somewhere. An estimated 300,000 deaths occur annually just in the United States alone due to both inactivity and poor dietary choices. That's a lot of deaths. 65% of Americans watch 2 or more hours of TV a day after working. 20% of all deaths of people 35 and over are attributed to a lack of physical activity, and it costs about $24 billion a year in medical spending because of a sedentary lifestyle. Let's take a look at the exercise part of it. Exercise is essential for heart health. Moving speeds up your breathing. This trains your lungs to breathe more deeply, and it encourages better oxygenation for your entire body, especially the heart. Toxins are moved out via your lymph, and this helps reduce inflammation that can lead to heart disease. In a meta-study, physically active individuals had lower blood pressure, higher insulin sensitivity, which means more stable blood sugars, and better plasma lipoproteins, or fat protein markers that can lead to aging and heart disease. Pillar versus killer number 1, let's look at some exercise hacks. If you sit most of the day, break up that time. You don't have to replace your sitting time with time at the gym. Light to moderate activity is actually the most beneficial for your heart. Stretch for 5 minutes when you first wake, and I encourage you to do the same before you go to sleep at night. For every 20 minutes of sitting, try to stand and walk for 10 minutes. Get up and move around at least once every hour. Find as many opportunities as possible to walk throughout your day. Take the stairs if that's an option. Walk around your block after you get home before you go indoors. And if you have time in the morning, do it before you go to work. You'll oxygenate your brain and perhaps have a more productive day. Track your steps with a fitness tracker, or you can even just use your phone or a simple pedometer. It doesn't have to be high-tech or expensive to be a useful tool to help you really formulate goals for yourself. And I like this because it gives you an idea of what moderate exercise is. So light to moderate and moderate exercise would be for walking when you're walking purposefully. So you're breathing, you notice you're breathing, but you can talk in full sentences. And if you want fully moderate exercise, you're brisk, you're in a little bit of a hurry, you're still breathing a little bit harder. You can talk in full sentences, but you have to stop to take a breath in between your words, perhaps. That is light to moderate activity. Walking faster than that, where you're slightly breathless and you can only talk in phrases, that's moderate to vigorous, and that is, of course, still good for your body. But honestly, the best exercise for your heart is regular light to moderate exercise. And I just included walking here so that you can see it doesn't have to be really hardcore to make a difference. Pillar versus killer number 2, healthy weight versus obesity. Obesity often has a genetic link. That's been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. However, far more often that trap is actually set when poor diet choices meet your sedentary lifestyle. Epigenetically increased risk for adult obesity can be transmitted to future generations. What you are doing to your DNA is something that your children can inherit. That is scary. A longitudinal cohort study of over 67,000 participants, half of whom were obese, found that those with obesity were significantly more likely to have hypertension and diabetes. And then over 8 years of follow-up, obesity was strongly associated with a new diagnosis of atrial fibrillation after controlling for age, gender, hypertension, and diabetes. In other words, just the obesity alone with no other cofactors is going to lead you to heart disease. So let's take a look at one way that obesity affects your health, and it is through chronic systemic inflammatory disorders. A lot of weight, when you carry a lot of fat around your organ systems, that fat actually changes your chemistry, your blood chemistry, it produces more stress chemicals, and that leads to chronic inflammatory signals coursing throughout your body. And when you have epicardial fat that accumulates, fat around your heart, that causes inflammation directly around your heart, which can lead to fibrosis of the underlying tissue. And fibrosis of the heart muscle is when the heart muscle gets stiff and unresponsive, which leads to heart attack. It also is related to accelerated atherosclerosis, which is hardening of the arteries, atrial arrhythmia, which is one of the reasons we get heart attacks, and then heart failure. So there's just no two ways around it. Obesity is strongly related to heart disease. Let's look at healthy weight. Having a healthy weight has some dependence on genetics also, but maintaining healthy weight has far more dependence on two of the other pillars of heart health, your exercise and diet choices. Having a healthy weight improves 4 key measures of heart and vascular health. The heart's pumping ability, or how well it's able to pump blood efficiently throughout your whole body, its ability to relax in between beats, which keeps it from aging, and the thickness of the heart muscle tissue, as along with the thickness of the carotid artery walls, which could lead to other problems when those thin out. And as you can see in this illustration, the obese person, the heart is quite enlarged, it's encased in fat. It's going to have a much harder time pumping blood effectively because it is so much larger, and there is such a greater volume of blood that has to be pumped that its ability to pump it effectively throughout the body is typically compromised. The size of the lungs is reduced, which means there's less oxygenation to the heart muscle, which means there's less oxygenation to the rest of the body. It is just not a good situation for your health. Let's take a look at some healthy weight hacks. Drink more good water. The more water you have in your body, the more your body can remove toxins that are a byproduct of having extra weight. And as you start walking and moving, you're going to be creating more toxins as that fat begins to melt down. Water is really important to help remove those toxins that can cause you problems. Get enough good sleep. If you don't sleep well, you have more stress chemistry, which can actually prevent you from being able to lose weight. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl, but whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. Martin Luther King Jr. You may not be able to start by even walking around the block. You may not be able to walk up several flights of stairs. That's not the point. Anything that you do that is more than you do now puts you on the path towards better health. And if that means in the beginning that you just walk around a room one more time a day, maybe it means you walk in your yard and back once a day. Wherever you start from, that's your starting point. Keep moving forward and you'll get to where you need to go. Pillar versus killer number 3, micronutrients versus junk food. Junk and processed foods are unfortunately the go-to meals for most Americans, and as a consequence, we have the highest rate of heart disease of all developed nations. A recent study estimates that most Americans eat healthy meals a total of only 30 days a year. So if you were to take all the single decent meals throughout 360 times 3 meals a day, it would equal 30 days of decent meals. That is pathetic. Another study showed that people who consume fast food once a week increase their risk of dying from heart disease by 20%. For people eating fast food 2 to 3 times a week, the risk increases another 50%. And for people who consume fast food 4 or more times a week, the risk of dying from heart disease is nearly 80% higher than people who do not eat fast food. That is a phenomenal statistic. And these are fast foods. It's not a fast food restaurant, but anything that you buy prepackaged in a bar, ready to go, no cooking, no peeling, no shelling. It's got additives, it's probably got too much sugar, it probably has too much salt, and it probably doesn't have enough micronutrients. Your heart works 24/7, 365, every moment of every day of your life. You need at least 50 micronutrients on a daily basis to create the enzymes and coenzymes that allow this non-stop activity. A recent study showed that no matter what type of diet you choose, high fat, high protein, balanced carb, as long as your diet is whole food based, inflammation drops and heart health soars. The message from our data is clear. Eating a balanced diet rich in fruits and vegetables, lean meats, high in fiber, restricted in red meats, sugary beverages, and sweets will not only improve cardiovascular risk factors, but also reduce direct injury to the heart. This is Dr. Stephen Jurashek of the Harvard Medical School. And this is a nice little infographic of some of those 50 micronutrients, your vitamins, some of the minerals, and really important, some of the important elements that maybe are not a vitamin or mineral, like coenzyme Q10, which is essential for heart health. Biotin and choline, essential for heart health. These are things that your body can make, but you've got to have the right micronutrients to start with them. If you want to learn more about CoQ10, by the way, there is another video in the series that you can look at. Let's take a look at some diet hacks. Control your portions. It's really important in our country. We eat typically about 30% larger portions than anywhere else on the planet. So if you go out to eat right away, take a second plate and put 30% of your meal to one side. You can eat it the next day for lunch maybe, or a second dinner. Eat a diet rich in fiber, natural color, and whole foods. If you're over 35, use a great CoQ10 supplement. As I said, it's absolutely essential for heart health. Get enough B vitamins. They are essential for CoQ10 functions. AFA algae is the best source. Make sure you have enough magnesium. Most people are deficient in this mineral. Dark chocolate, legumes, avocados, and nuts are all great sources of magnesium. Eat enough essential fatty acids, especially polyunsaturated fatty acids. Look at the above list of foods, and then add in eggs to that. Great sources of healthy fats. Eat the rainbow. If it's got a natural color, it's got an antioxidant. And if it's got an antioxidant, it's going to help reduce inflammation. And when you reduce inflammation, you improve heart health. Always keep a bowl of fresh fruits. This is so important in my opinion. Even if it's 10 o'clock at night, if you absolutely have to have something and a cup of water isn't going to work, eat a piece of fruit. Those natural sugars are beneficial when they're combined with fiber and the other nutrients found in these whole foods. Keep healthy snacks available. Nuts, seeds, beans, hummus. If you like chopped vegetables, make sure you have some around. Maybe once a week you chop some up and have them available to yourself. Get a healthy cracker. Make sure you have fresh fruits. You'll be surprised at how quickly your body adapts to preferring healthy snacks over packaged foods that are completely nutrient empty. Be sure and have good probiotics. I'm a big believer in probiotic supplements, but your gut is directly related to heart health. I have another presentation on that as well. If you're interested, you can look that up. So make sure you're eating good live fermented foods like yogurts or sauerkrauts or kimchi, or make sure you have a good live probiotic. And look at your diet mentality. I'm a big believer in intuitive eating. A diet mentality is the one where you go, did I do enough to deserve this? I can't have that. It's got too much fat. It's got too much calories. Oh my gosh, I'm going to avoid that and I'm going to deny myself this. That mentality does not serve you in enjoying your food. Far better questions are, am I hungry? Do I want what's in front of me? Am I going to be filled with bad feelings and negative emotions if I eat this food? In an hour, am I going to still feel satisfied? If I don't eat it, will I feel deprived? You don't want to deprive yourself. Human beings don't do well with that. You do want to make sure your choices feed you and leave you feeling happy. Pillar versus killer number 4, stressors versus stress management. It's impossible to totally avoid stress, but modern life has created a stressor storm that most people cannot handle. Stressors out of our control include environmental stress, societal stress, and work and school stress. Stressors that we have some control over include physical stress, financial stress, and emotional stress. Studies show that long-term stress can increase blood cholesterol, triglycerides, blood sugar, and blood pressure, and these, of course, are all risk factors for heart disease. Long-term stress affects how your blood clots. It makes your blood stickier and can increase the risk of a stroke. There is overwhelming evidence for both the deleterious effects of stress on the heart and the fact that vulnerability to stress and resilience factors when faced with stress will play a role in amplifying or dampening the effects of stress on your body and heart. In other words, how you handle stress, whether you're vulnerable to it, if it puts you in a black hole where you are just sucked into some negative feelings and can't get out, you're far more vulnerable to diseases from that than if you have tools to help you manage the stress in your life. It is clear that stress has both a physical, objective, and a psychological, subjective component. The latter, as described by Koolhaas and colleagues, depends on the individual perception of its predictability and controllability. In other words, the physical reaction your body has to stress is really intimately related to how you see it. Is it a predictable stress? Did you know it was coming? Do you feel you control what happens afterwards? The more you feel in control, the less effect the stress has on you. The way a person can anticipate a certain stressor and then control it defines the resulting stress response. So the more you can adapt to stress in your life and have tools to help you manage it, the faster you can turn off the stress response and the negative physical reactions your body will have to it. So we're actually going to look at stress hacks next week because it's that important of a science. It's actually a science. So next webinar will be focused on attitude and managing stress. And I would like to leave you with this quote. You carry so much love in your heart. Give yourself some. Thank you, folks, and have a wonderful week.